Hi, everyone. Welcome to our webinar, Expedite Configuration Drift Prevention to Minimize Impact. My name is Claudio Pillay, and I'm joined here by my colleague Raj, who will be giving us a hands-on look at the NetBrain platform in just a few short minutes. Before we begin, let's give some of our late attendees a chance to settle in while we go over a little bit of housekeeping. Like most of our webinars, you can type in your questions and we'll answer them during and after the presentation. Our microphones are muted, but you'll be able to write any questions at any time during the webinar. Also, this webinar is being recorded, so if you miss any part of the presentations, after a few days, you'll be able to rewatch it from our website. Lastly, we advise everyone to watch in full screen mode so as to not miss any details. For those joining us today for the first time, this webinar today is part of our 2024 series, Network Automation in Minutes. Every other week, we demonstrate our assessment automation technology and dashboards. The idea is to show you how simple yet powerful automation can save you time with manual repetitive tasks that significantly slow us down when managing the network. You can catch the ones that we've already live streamed on demand from our website and register to watch the rest in the series live when they premiere. Just go to the URL on screen and you can sign up from there. Today's demonstration is about configuration drift. So NetBrain sees automation as key to preventing outages. And one that we see a lot from a big concern from our customers is configuration drift. And that makes sense because research shows that up to 50% of outages have some root cause in configuration errors. So Raj, I'm going to hand it off to you so you can.
Sure thing. All right, so let's talk about config drift. Now, before I can introduce a new concept that I wanted to talk about today, I just want to talk about the challenges with configuration drift and what we've been seeing in the industry. First thing, it's very difficult to know everything about your network. Chances are that the network architect is no more in the organization, or you've acquired or some new networks that you do not have a complete understanding of. And of course, you have hybrid network technologies, so it's impossible to have one SME who knows it all, right? So that's our first challenge. Now, if you don't have 100% knowledge of your own network, working with NetBrain to create automation will be less effective, because NetBrain is going to go automate your know-hows, your knowledge, and then convert that into daily automation tasks. But if your knowledge is not 100%, we have a gap. Now, seeing that in mind, what we started to do is reverse engineer your network know-hows. And how we do that is very simple. Next couple slides that I'm going to walk you through, we'll talk about how we reverse engineer your golden design, your key critical assets, all of this, and then convert this into automation. So this way, you don't have to be responsible to create these automation in NetBrain. So let's see how this is done. First thing, let me just go back a bit. There we go. One of the things I realized is when you go out and speak about config drift, the ones that we usually talk about are the network-wide designs. And these are, just for an example, these are SMB credentials. These are your NTPs, your AAA, and a lot of these things, right? Now, these are network-wide designs, and they're easily identified because all you have to do is just go globally, log into every device, look for SMP credentials, for example, and then see if they are V3 or V2, for example, right? Now, that is very generic. It is powerful, but then we miss out on a lot of the finer details in your network, such as, let's get to design number 2. These are 2 device designs. These are usually pairs of devices that you have in your network. They could be WAN routers, they could be HSRP pairs, they could be firewall pairs, it could be load balancer pairs, and so on and so forth. Now, the problem with this is you have hundreds and hundreds of these pairs in your network, and you're not necessarily monitoring them every single day, because some of them might be critical, some of them would be less critical, But then if you have a pair that is not operating the way it is supposed to, you're creating a failover disaster there. So with NetBrain now, we can reverse engineer these pairs. We're going to go look at your network, find devices that are in pairs that have similar configuration, and then automatically create intents to go monitor these designs. And if you're new to these webinar series, or if you're not a NetBrain customer, network intents are nothing but automation tasks that you can have inside of NetBrain. So let's say, for example, if I were to go verify a BGP router or BGP neighbor, I can go issue a show command, look at the neighbor and see if it's up or not. The entire process is an intent. And we have intents and hundreds and thousands of these intents that we can build with the reverse engineering process. Now, even more difficult than identifying the two device pairs is the local clusters that you have. And these are not necessarily defined as local clusters. That's why you don't think about it. But these are devices that's on your critical path. These are devices that has a certain QoS policy. These are devices that has a certain static route, right? Now, you might have 3 to 20 to 40 devices of a certain configuration anywhere in the network, but then they belong to a single cluster. And finding these clusters is next to impossible. So if you think about it, let's talk about network-wide design. You have hundreds and hundreds of these designs. Okay, and I'm talking about, let's say on an average, you're a 1,000 device network. Like we have companies that own that have the NetBrain solution from 100 devices to 400,000 devices. So I'll just take an average of 1,000 device. Let's say you're a 1,000 device network. You have hundreds of these local wide area designs. You have hundreds of these network pairs or failover pairs in a network, and then you have hundreds and hundreds of these clusters. So you're looking at more than 10,000 network intents or network automations. Now, without any process in place, if we were counting on you to go create these intents, it would be a very difficult task. And if we give you a generic library that you can choose intents from, that is also very less effective because it's not going to cover your customized network ideas or network golden network templates. So through this process, what we do is we help you create a database of your golden designs, network-wide golden designs in your failover pairs and golden designs in your network cluster. And then you can start monitoring them to see if you're always, if there's any conflict drift in your network. The question is, how do we view all of this? Because if you're telling me that you have 10,000 network intents, how am I going to see them, right? It's impossible for me. Well, with NetBrain, if this is your first time looking at NetBrain, we have something known as summary dashboards. And these dashboards will summarize all of this intents in your network. So just an example, what you're looking at on the screen right now is we got about 288 intents that's doing config checks. We've got another 687 doing some rule check, and then so on and so forth. So you can summarize thousands and thousands of these intents on a single dashboard. And that's what makes this combination very powerful. So what I'm going to do right now is I'll just quickly check my Q&A if there's any questions. Looks like they're not. All right, great. So I'm going to switch over to NetBrain. I'll show you what the database looks like. I'm going to show you what this dashboard looks like, and then we'll talk about where do you go from here. Okay, so let me do that real quick. There we go. So now you should be looking at NetBrain. Now, this is our NetBrain desktop, and this is for the audience who's here for the first time. People who are pros at it, you know what I'm going to talk about next. That's the automation data tables. This is the backend that is powering all of NetBrain, especially the reverse engineered designs we spoke about. So on the first glance, if you look at something like this, it is a little intimidating. I'll agree to that. But if you really understand what's happening here, this is nothing but just a list of every design that you have in your network. So let me explain that real quick. You're looking at the network-wide golden templates. And the way NetBrain does this is it's going to go identify all these technologies in your network. like it found out NTP, VTY access, so probably gonna go check for your telnet SSH, your login credentials, all of that, your QoS. So the first step is to go identify a feature, and that's what we call a feature ID. The second step is to identify the instance of that feature. For instance, if you're talking about QoS, every single what just QoS itself is not enough. So QoS could have multiple class maps, right? So it's going to go find out each and every policy that you have, each and every class map that you have. And inside of that class map, the third thing is it's going to go find that golden config. And this golden config is what's critical to you today. But not just that, we also give you the number of devices that follows this trend. So this way, you know for a fact that, hey, QoS, I've got 23 devices in my network that has a certain policy, right? I've got so-and-so devices that has a certain policy. So this way, you not just know about what other technologies in your network, you also know what the golden templates look like, and then you also know the number of devices that's following that certain golden template. Again, if you are a power user, this might be very appealing to you. You really get excited. But if you're just an end user, you don't necessarily need to know all of this. Okay. So if you're an end user, bear with me for 5 minutes. I'm going to talk to you about what is going to be your role. But if you are a power user, if you're responsible for creating automation in NetBrain, if you're responsible to run this, then this is very critical for you. Okay. So step number one, who builds this automation data table? Well, good news, you don't build it. You could if you wanted to, but this is something that you get with the reverse engineering output. So NetBrain engineers are going to work with you to create something like this. Okay. So this way, you don't have to go do a PhD in NetBrain and build all of this. Second thing, just to make it simpler, what I would do is I would list out all the devices in my network and then associate automation checks with it. So in this case, we just found out what are the automation designs that we need to work on. And in here, in this table, we just reversed it. So we listed out all the devices and I said, okay, great. So my ISP router right here has BGP, has OSPF, and then I can scroll all the way on the right and probably also has a bunch of these checks that I can look at, right? And if there is a red, it's going to tell me that, hey, look, by the way, on this device, QoS config does not comply with the golden standards. That's an alert, and that is something that I should be able to look at. Now that's your network-wide designs. Remember what the second thing I spoke about was the two device designs. And these are, as you can see, your IPsec designs, your QoS designs, your OSPF, your multicasting. There's a bunch of these that you can look at, okay? And again, NetBrain is building all of this for you. And I love the HSRP design right here because what it tells me is that I've got two devices in my network, which just has one device count. And the error message clearly states why. It says that incorrect group with just one device, right? So what probably happened is it's supposed to be a pair. It's not a pair anymore. Someone took that router off, or maybe it's reconfigured. But again, this is a network anomaly, and this will be caught. These are more of day one design errors, but then NetBrain is able to go identify that as well. Okay, so this is, again, I just wanted to give you a quick glimpse of what these tables look like, because a lot of times you look at the magic and you're like, okay, great, this looks awesome, but how does it happen in the back? Well, fancy output is always powered by intelligent data tables, and the intelligent data tables are built by reverse engineering the whole process or your network designs. Okay. Now the end users, well, we have a chat right here. Okay. Well, the end users, you guys can start paying attention now because this is what you want to do. When someone talks about, let's say, a config drift, right? What I did, and in my case, the easiest way I like to monitor this is to create a dashboard and set alerts. So in this dashboard, as you can see, this is a summary of everything I have in my network. It's a very small network I have with 81 devices, but this would work exactly the same on hundreds and thousands of devices as well. We do have large customers that we're working with them with reverse engineering, and we've found more than 200 network design errors in one of these organizations we're working with. So it's super helpful. So summary of what I have in my network-wide design templates. This is just the table that I was talking about, but this is in reds and greens. So green is good, red is bad. If I were to click on this and see what's wrong, I can get to the depth of it and also look at the process in the back. So I've been running the general system failure feature check on all of my devices. And then one of these devices has a VTY problem. And then if I just go dive a little bit deeper into the problem, it tells me that, hey, this particular line does not comply with Golden. Okay. So it clearly lists what the problem is, where the problem is, and of course, this is on your best interest to go fix that problem. Okay. The same thing with localized templates. We have two device designs. These are all your pairs. We have HSRP checks. Again, one of them has an error, and this is probably the same device that I was talking to you about, which just has one device in the pair. So that's a problem. 3 to 10 device clusters. Again, these are all these designs that you have, such as QoS, such as static routing and whatnot. Everything is green. Green is good. And if you just wanted to summarize, I was working with this client who said, Ross, this is all great, but then the folks that I have on my team, all they care about is technology. So can you give me a featured template? I said, of course, this is part of the process. So we listed out all the features that you would have in your network, your BGP, iGRIP, FHRP, OSPF, policy-based routing, QoS, and then you have a list of everything right and wrong with these designs. So if I see a QoS, which is red, I'm going to go click on that and it's going to tell me, of course, it also has a view map option, which means it's going to take me to the map for that device, which is always nice, but then you can simply summarize everything from right here. There we go. So just to summarize, what we just did is we got into a network. We installed NetBrain. We reverse engineered your designs, and we were able to go find each and every golden template that you have in your network. This next thing we did is we created automation for each of these golden templates. So NetBrain is not just an information tool where it can go tell you what's wrong, what's right, but it's also going to create automation and continuously monitor this. So this way, you're not just doing a one-time config drift check just for the audits, but then this is a continuous process. So I can check this, and I'm doing this right now. I'm checking this every single week, Monday, 6 p.m. I'm going to go out there, look at all these designs and say, everything is good except for X, Y, and Z. And then you can summarize all of that in this dashboard, or you can also receive email alerts, open tickets, all of that is possible through NetBrain interfaces. But just for the scope of this presentation, this webinar, I'm going to limit this to this particular dashboard. And this is how we can catch config drifts in the network. One last, and since we have some time here, I'm gonna go take a look at my Q&A. Everything looks good. Let me just pull this up. There we go. Yeah, so no Q&A. All right, so the last thing I want to talk about here, this is a bonus for you guys because we have some time, is chatbots. Now, recently, we were speaking to this organization who has more than 40 engineers managing the network, and they said, great, we need a self-help tool because we cannot depend on one SME to handle NetBrain and communicate with everybody. So what we did is we created a chatbot for them, or we empowered them to create a chatbot. So you can do this by yourself. It's very easy. I'm going to open one of these chatbots. So the chatbot we created is for config drifts, but then you can have a chatbot for mapping, for pretty much everything that you need from NetBrain, for troubleshooting. So again, I can have multiple options. This is just a framework for you guys to understand, but if you need a complex, a bit more advanced chatbot, you can build that as well. So it's going to ask me, what am I looking to do? Well, I'm looking for a config drift, and I'm going to go select a couple of these devices. So let's say I'm going to go select just one, maybe since I'm in Canada, I'm just gonna go select my Canadian router right here, and there you go. It says, well, everything good with my CAYYZ or my router right here. It's gonna give me a diagnosis tree. So in the tree, I can check, hey, config drift check and my ADT, everything is green, good news. And then it's also gonna give me a map just in case I'm interested to look at the map. This is the QoS map, by the way, from the previous error, and it tells me that hey, there's a policy mismatch. But again, it's gonna go open that map for you, right? Very simple. Now, this is a very critical tool, especially if you're looking for, if you have a larger organization, if you want people to be independent, and if you want people to be able to do, again, work with NetBrain, but without having to do a PSD with NetBrain, right? Open a bot, ask them a question, select a bunch of devices, it's going to tell you what the config drift looks like. Okay, as simple as that. If you're okay with a video wall, I would put something like this on my wall and say, hey, look at this. This is my config dashboard. Okay. If there's a troubleshooting going on, I'm going to pull up a troubleshooting dashboard and I'm going to put this up on my video wall and say, hey, let's monitor this. You know, a bunch of things going wrong. If anything goes red, we can go take action, right? So this is how I would look at my output. And of course, if you are if you're very smart with NetBrain, if you want to learn everything in the back, this is where you'd be spending a little bit of your time, where you'll find out what your designs look like, what your clusters look like, how many devices have what kind of design. Okay. With that, I'm gonna look at my Q&A once more. I don't have any questions. Um, but if you have any questions, I'm gonna take a 2-minute pause here before we wrap things up. So we're still gonna monitor the Q&A, but I'm gonna hand this over to my partner in crime, Claudio, just to wrap things up. I'm still looking at the Q&A, by the way. So if you have questions, please send them over. Claudio, it's all yours.
Yep. Thank you, Raj.
Yep, we don't have more questions, so I think we can wrap up then.
Okay, well, thank you, Raj. Thank you for the demonstration. Thank you all for joining. I'll just remind you again to check out our website to sign up for future webinars, and we'll see you in 2 weeks. Thanks, everyone.